The Atari 2600 Plus was recently released. I finally got my hands on it a few weeks ago and had some time to play with it. It replicates the original 2600 released all the way back in 1977. And now, 46 years later, the iconic home gaming console returns and is retailing for 179 Australian dollars on Amazon. But is this modern recreation really a plus or a minus? Stay tuned as we do a complete review. Hello and thanks for joining me on Evan's Retro Lane. The video computer system, better known as the 2600, was a gaming console released in 1977 by Atari Incorporated. Atari were known for introducing the world to electronic games from 1972, starting with Pong. On the 17th of November 2023, the Atari 2600 Plus was released. I pre-ordered it along with the additional paddle controller pack on Amazon. Back in the early 80s, my family had a few of these early gaming consoles. The Atari 2600 was one of them, along with the ColecoVision. My dad would show my brother and I how to operate them, and we would pick up various games from trash and treasure markets. One thing I do remember was that I preferred the ColecoVision over the Atari. The 2600 had some okay games, but some were more enjoyable than others. So mid-2023, a company who had the Atari naming rights announced that they would be releasing the Atari 2600 Plus. Now this thing looks like the real deal. It has the metal switches, a cartridge port, the black grooves on the top, and the wood grain finish. It also comes with one original looking CX40 joystick. Bundled with it is a 10-in-1 games cartridge. Now if you've been following the Atari brand, you would probably have seen the Atari Flashback series. The series consists of a reimagined Atari console, released almost yearly since 2004. The Flashback series are similar to the mini consoles that have become popular, which come preloaded with a stack of games. The Atari 2600 Plus is not one of those. In fact, it isn't even manufactured by the same company that produces the Flashback series. You may be wondering who the target audience is for the 2600 Plus. Let's begin by taking a look at it. Here is the product as it came out of the delivery box. At first glance, the packaging looks great. The red color and the images shown are very nice. Let's take it out of the plastic wrapping. There's even a gloss over the lettering and images which make this look like a professional premium product. On the top of the box, there are the typical color bars that back in the day used to represent a computer or console which is capable of color. On the underside, the Atari 2600 Plus logo with the question, "Have you played an Atari today?" And on the back, we see some detail about what's included in the box. I see there is a statement here, "Experience the beginning of home console video gaming." The Atari 2600 was definitely an early video game console. But in actual fact, it wasn't the beginning. That title goes to the Magnavox Odyssey, which was released 5 years earlier in 1972, back when Atari released Pong. Continuing on, we get the Atari 2600 Plus video game system, a CX40 Plus joystick, a 10 games in 1 cartridge, a HDMI cable, and a USB power cable. Note that the power adapter is not included in this box, and it states that here in yellow. Most of the time, a TV with USB ports can power these devices, but it's best to check the recommended voltages and amps. We can also see the specs of the console, such as the dimensions, the weight, processor, and RAM. Based on these specs, this console is using some form of emulation. I notice here that the cartridge port accepts both 2600 and 7800 games. I would say that this is the main appeal of this product. I'll take a look at this with some original cartridges, but I couldn't help but notice the asterisk next to the 7800, which points to a compatibility list. We'll check this out when we test this feature out. Here we see the 10 games on the included cartridge. Out of these, I remember playing Adventure, Combat, and Missile Command. I'm keen to check these out along with all the other games. Now, let's open the box. Inside, we see the beautifully presented contents. The Atari 2600 Plus is definitely smaller than the original. In fact, this is an 80% scale replica of the 1980 version with the 4 switches, whereas the older version has 6 switches. There's a nice plastic dust cover, which is great to keep around for when this device is sitting idle. Let's take it out of the box and have a look. The build quality is great. Everything is as it should be. All the correct fonts, colors, the shape, even the switches feel authentic. The wood grain is a little lighter than the original, but it looks really nice. I believe the Atari logo here on the front lights up when the power is switched on, which is a really nice modern addition. Overall, I'm happy with how this looks and feels. Under the main unit, we have a one-page quick guide. On the back of the unit, we have a USB-C port for power, and I'll assume connecting this to a computer to perform firmware updates in the future. The left DB9 controller port, which is great because you can use any of your old joysticks on this as well. The difficulty switch for the left player, a HDMI output, which is great as the original only had an RF output, the difficulty switch for the right player, and the right DB9 controller port, and a switch to switch between 16:9 or 4:3 output. I'm going to set this to 4:3 as I want this looking as authentic as possible. So what else does this come with? Let's take a look at this box here. Here is the 10 games in one cartridge. It comes in this cardboard sleeve, which is really nice. On the back of the cartridge, you find the dip switches to select the game you want to play. This is very retro and I love it. And the other item in the box is the CX40 Plus joystick. It looks like the real deal and feels just as bad as the original. But as I said earlier, you can use another compatible DB9 joystick if you don't like the feel of this one. Overall, it's a nice recreation. This product only comes with one joystick though. Atari are selling this individually if you want a matching set. In the final box, we have a HDMI cable and a USB-C cable. So with all the contents revealed, it's time to connect it up to a TV. Connecting this is straightforward. First, I'll plug in the USB-C connector and I'll connect it to this TV, which has sufficient power through the USB for things like portable hard drives. Next, we'll connect the HDMI cable. Finally, we'll connect the CX40 Plus joystick to the left controller port. And that's it. Let's turn it on. I'm deliberately going to turn it on without any cartridge installed, just so we can have a look at the behavior. Let's power it on by moving the switch to the on position. First thing I notice is that the TV has detected a 720p resolution at 60 Hz. I'll come back to this in a moment. We get the Atari logo as a startup screen, and then the loading game failure, which is because we haven't got a cartridge plugged in. So just to confirm, this unit does not have any built-in games. It looks like it's just the software to start up the system and read the cartridge port. In regards to the 60 Hz display, you may realize that these days we don't really worry about the refresh rate at all. It doesn't really matter, but for these old systems, it actually does matter. And you may be wondering what I mean by this, and it really has to do with what region in the world you live in. Two of the main standards are PAL and NTSC. PAL traditionally has a slightly higher resolution with a refresh rate of 50 Hz, while NTSC has a lower resolution with a higher refresh rate of 60 Hz. So from these specs, there is quite a difference, and that meant that Atari units back in the day had different chips between a PAL unit and an NTSC unit. So did the creators of the 2600 Plus consider their target audiences? Let's park that topic to the side and let's check out the 10 games in one cartridge. The packaging for the cartridge is really nice. It comes in this cardboard sleeve. The cartridge itself is as you would expect for an Atari cartridge. On the back, you can see the dip switches where you can select the game you want to load. Simply look on the front side to see the positions and make the adjustments. Let's try Missile Command. That should do it. Simply insert the cartridge and then flip the power switch. Unfortunately, it isn't an instant boot like the original. It takes a little time to load the software and then what seems to be the read of the cartridge ROM to the memory of the unit. and then it starts. Once we're in, the game functions as if it were running on an original. We start the game by pressing the game reset switch. Missile Command is an enjoyable game despite the primitive graphics and sound. Let's quickly check out all the other games on this cartridge. Here is Adventure. You must explore this world to find the magical chalice and return it to the Golden Castle. You find keys to unlock gates and a weapon to slay the dragons. Overall, it's a fun game. Here is Combat. Now, for this game you need 2 players, and it's a little annoying that out of the box we only get 1 joystick. But you can operate this game in 3 modes using tanks, biplanes, or jet fighters, and then choose from another set of variations of weapons. Dodge 'em is a simple enough game. Haunted House is similar to Adventure, but here you explore 4 floors containing 6 rooms each. The objective is to find the urn, scepter, and master key. Maze Craze is a fun 2-player game where you fight to be the first to find your way out of the maze. Real Sports Volleyball is a fun game where you control 2 players. You can play against the computer in this one or play with another player. Surround is a game where the objective is to surround your opponent, causing them to run out of space to move and at the same time not running into anything else yourself. Video Pinball is a simple pinball game. And finally, Yar's Revenge. The objective of the game is to break a path through the shield and destroy the Quotile with a blast from the Zorlon cannon. Now, if these games aren't enough for you, Atari have released a few more extra additions to the 2600 Plus range. I also pre-ordered the 4 games in 1 cartridge with the included CX30 Plus paddle controllers. An Atari setup isn't complete without a set of paddles. Opening the box, we get the 4-in-1 game cartridge with games made specifically for paddles, and of course the paddles themselves. These look like a perfect recreation and they feel great too. The games included on the cartridge are Breakout, Canyon Bomber, Night Driver, and Video Olympics. The great thing about these recreated joysticks and paddles is that you can take them and plug them into an original 2600. And you can also use your old joysticks and paddle controllers on this new 2600 Plus. This brings me to my next test. I have here a couple of joysticks from back in the day. I use them primarily with my Commodore computers. I also have a set of Commodore paddles. Let's test them out. No surprise here, the joysticks work well, as do the Commodore paddles. Since we're testing old hardware, let's see whether we can test our old cartridges. I have here 2 2600 game cartridges. This one is Venture and Donkey Kong. I also have 2 7800 game cartridges, Ms. Pac-Man and Choplifter. Another consideration is to make sure that your cartridge is clean. The last thing you want is to have a cartridge that's been laying around and dirty and plugging it into your brand new 2600 Plus. So I recommend just giving them a light scrub with some IPA and a Q-tip. Now for the moment of truth, let's try Donkey Kong. And it works fine. Now let's try Venture. And that also works fine. So far, so good. Now for the 7800 cartridges, starting with Ms. Pac-Man. Okay, I had a feeling that these were going to be problematic. Okay, so based on what I've seen, the cartridge was red, but the execution of the game on the emulator seems to be an issue. Given that there are some weird artifacts on the screen, I would say that this may be an issue with a PAL game running on an NTSC system perhaps. Now this may be a problem because I'm in Australia and our video standard is PAL, and the cartridges sold in Australia would be made for that format. So far the reviews I've seen of this product are from US based YouTubers, and there's no mention of PAL or NTSC anywhere on Atari's website or in any of the documentation that I've seen. So I'm unsure of how the 2600 Plus handles these formats. Let's try our final test cartridge, Choplifter. And we just get a black screen. Again, it seems that the cartridge was red, but the emulator seems to be having an issue with the ROM. So what do I think about the 2600 Plus? Let's break it down. Who is this for? Well, I'd say that if you're an Atari fan who has old hardware and you don't want to use it, you want to preserve it, and you've got a large collection of Atari cartridges, then this unit is perfect, provided that the cartridges work. Now, if you don't have a stack of Atari cartridges, I would say that this would become an expensive hobby. There are other ways for you to experience Atari games, such as maybe buying the Flashback series that I mentioned earlier in the video. Now, I paid 179 Australian dollars for the 2600 Plus. I don't think it's a bad price, but maybe it could have been a little bit cheaper, or for the price, include 2 joysticks and 16 games on the cartridge. The 4 games in one cartridge with the paddle controllers was an additional 60 Australian dollars. I would say that it needed to be 40 Australian dollars, maximum for what it is. In terms of the physical product, it's well put together. And when playing the games that work, it's absolutely fantastic. I love that it also plays the 7800 games. Well, even though they didn't work for me, but the concept is great. For me, where this fails is the firmware. It really needs some attention to hopefully improve the loading time and the issue of not loading the cartridges despite them being on the compatibility list. Time will tell. Other than that, it's a really great remake. So let me know, did you buy a 2600 Plus? What is your experience so far? Or are you thinking about buying one? Drop a comment. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this informative, why not give me a thumbs up? If you want to learn more, why not subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next episode.